On May 14, 2022, 4 certified divers made their way to Manatee Springs State Park for a diving adventure in its long cave system. They got themselves into big trouble after making several wrong decisions during the dive and had to find their way out without the appropriate knowledge of the cave system. Are you enjoying our cave diving stories and not subscribed yet? Please consider subscribing to our channel. Manatee Springs State Park is located in Levy County, Florida. It flows directly into the Suwannee River, and it's one of the longest springs in Florida. There are lots of sinkholes connected to the Suwannee. One of them is the 90-foot underground cave, which is linked to the popular place called the Catfish Hotel. It's one of the largest and most popular entrances of the 3 sinkholes at Manatee Springs State Park. You're going to have a great experience diving in this open water sinkhole. The second entrance is the Sioux Sink. It's located at a camping site and is oftentimes used only as an emergency exit. The third is Freedman's Sink. Freedman's Sinkhole is a shallow sinkhole with just a 4-foot diameter, a narrow path into the ceiling of the cave. The Freedman's Sinkhole is 1,712 feet away from the Catfish Hotel, which makes it the farthest from the Catfish Hotel. If you have a flair for outdoor activities and you want to have lots of fun, especially in a natural environment, Manatee Springs State Park is one of the best for you. You can decide to go boating, camping, bicycling, fishing, hiking, picnicking, scuba diving, walking, running, or viewing wildlife. Manatee Springs is home to the gentle manatees, after which it was named. Other animals that you can see at the park are largemouth bass, catfish, speckled perch, and brim. Also, Manatee Springs State Park is a place where you can find different types of trees, such as cypress, maple, sweet gum, and ash. On May 14, 2022, a group of divers arrived at Manatee Springs State Park for a diving adventure. The group consisted of 2 fathers and 2 sons, making 4 divers in the entire group. They planned to enter the Manatee Cave System at Freedman's Sinkhole and traverse downstream and exit the cave system at the Catfish Hotel. All 4 divers are new to the Manatee Springs Cave System, though, and they only relied on a video they watched while preparing for their dive. The 4 of them were certified divers, having obtained Intro to Cave certification with about 100 dives. They were fully equipped for the dive. They had their HP 100 side-mounted cylinder, which had a pressure of approximately 3,800 psi. Each of the 4 divers had their primary and backup lights, and the 2 fathers had a floodlight attached to their video cameras. At about 11:17 a.m., the 4 divers entered the cave system using the guideline. They all swam downstream. They were all conscious of the upline that was at Sioux Sink, which ended at Catfish Hotel. They were divided into 2 teams, with the 2 sons on the first team, divers 1 and 3, and the 2 fathers, divers 2 and 4, on the second team. The father's team was following the son's team. When they got to the end of the line they'd been following from Sioux Sink, they doubted if they were really at the exit to the Catfish Hotel. There was no visibility in the region where they were. It was very dark. Then, Diver 1, one of the sons, dived a bit away from that point to see if there was more visibility in that area, but it was the same, so he returned to the other 3 and notified them through the wet note, Manatee. But because they were aware of the previous incident involving a diver that got stuck exiting at Manatee Headspring, they had to take another route. They were not sure of their present location, so they turned back and dove towards Sioux Sink. They assumed it could have been the Catfish Hotel exit they had mistaken for Sioux Sink. That was the nearest exit they were aware of. Now they had to restructure the teams. Instead of a father-father team and a son-son team, they made it 2 father-son teams. When they turned to find the exit, Diver 2, one of the fathers, discovered that his turn pressure was 3,100 psi. He also switched off his video light and swam against the flow. It was really hard for him to swim against the flow because of the current. When they were moving closer to the Sioux Sink, Diver 2 was concerned about himself making it out of the cave, so he started pulling hand over hand and putting his head down. By the time he got to the Sioux Sink upline, he saw Diver 1 already ascending. When Diver 2 turned back to check for the other 2 divers, he saw that Diver 3 was leading the dive, while Diver 4 was about 10 to 20 feet away from Diver 3. So Diver 2 signaled to the 2 of them, and they both replied to him. Divers 1 and 2 got out of the cave system safely. Diver 1 exited around 12 o'clock, 43 minutes after they entered the cave system. He returned to the surface with 1500 psi in both cylinders. Diver 2 exited at 12:05, having 1500 psi left in one of his cylinders and 850 psi in the second cylinder. Diver 2 called 911 since Diver 3 and 4 had not exited the cave. Instead of diving upline, the two divers missed the way and continued to Friedman's Sink. Diver 4 told his son, Diver 3, to swim faster. When Diver 3 ascended the hill that was just before the upline tee at Friedman's Sink, he looked back and saw Diver 4's video light. So assuming that Diver 4 was coming after him, he made his ascent and exited at Friedman's Sink at about 12:20 with 1500 psi in one of his cylinders, while the second cylinder was empty. Diver 4 never exited the cave, and the last movements recorded on his computer were at 12:17. Some qualified divers came to the scene and entered the cave system at the Catfish Hotel at about 12:50 in search of Diver 4. From the Catfish Hotel, they dived upstream to Friedman. There, they found his camera and light on the floor of the cave, about 100 feet downstream of Friedman's Sink. The International Underwater Cave Rescue and Recovery, or IUCRR team, came to the scene of the accident. It was a two-member team. They dove into the cave system and found Diver 4's body in a dome about 100 feet downstream of Friedman's Sink, where the first rescue team had seen his camera and light. He had run out of air in his two cylinders. After analyzing the situation, it was discovered that many things contributed to the accident, one of which was the fact that they made too many wrong decisions before and during the dive. Their lack of knowledge about what the Manatee Springs cave system looks like and the high current affected their dive. Besides, their decision to traverse and go upstream into an unfamiliar cave system could also have played a role. They could have entered through the Catfish and dove upstream to set up the traverse. With that, they would have been acquainted with the flow and the distance they would go if they needed to dive upstream. Other factors contributed to the accident apart from the dive plan. One of them is the fact that they turned back instead of using a safety spool to locate the zone of visibility. If this had been done, they would have seen the zone of visibility just 10 to 15 feet away from where they were and known that they were at Catfish. The other fact is that the decision of Diver 4 to use it as a video light after they had turned the dive wasn't the best. The video light would have prevented him from seeing the line or the natural visibility at Sue's Sink. Diver 3 was deceived by the video light, which made him assume that Diver 4 was following him to the Friedman's exit, when he wasn't. And lastly, the four divers didn't work well together as a team. Diver 2 should have waited for Divers 3 and 4 when he signaled to them at Sue's Sink, so that they could get there too and follow him upstream to the surface. Also, Diver 3 ascended the hill to Friedman's Sink and saw Diver 4's light, where Diver 3 didn't wait to ensure they both ascended together. Maybe Diver 3 could have shared gas with Diver 4, who had run out of gas. But possibly, because Diver 3 had little gas left in his cylinder too, he avoided having two casualties. But it remains a mystery in the diving community why four divers who were known to be safety conscious had gone on such a dangerous dive. We would like to thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed watching, take a dive on the like and subscribe buttons and hit the bell icon so you get notified when we come back with another exciting cave diving story.